Welcome. This is British National Party Television coming to you from Blackpool in Lancashire. Now, the people of this town, many people in this town, believe that a similar situation exists here as existed in Rotherham, i.e. that there are Muslim paedophile grooming gangs operating in the area, and the authorities are all but ignoring their activities. Now, today we're going to focus on one of the reasons why many people in this town believe that is the case. But I'd like to emphasise that we're only going to give one of the reasons, and there are many other reasons. Now, we're joined here today by Mrs. Charlene Downes. Mrs. Charlene Downes is the mother of Charlene, and I'm sure many of our viewers will recognise that. Charlene was a young child who was murdered in Blackpool a few years ago. Following that murder, two Muslim men, Mr. Albatiki and Mr. Raveshi, stood trial accused of committing that crime. Unfortunately, the jury failed to reach a unanimous verdict, and therefore the two Muslim men walked free. Now, it is almost universally agreed by those who have studied this trial that it constituted a massive miscarriage of justice on a whole range of levels. However, we're not going to go into the reasons why it was a miscarriage of justice today. Instead, we're going to look at an aspect of the trial which has been largely overlooked. And that is, during that trial, 6 witnesses came forward to give evidence to the effect that the two Muslim men were indeed paedophiles. Now, Mrs. Downes, I was wondering if you could give our viewers a small insight into the type of evidence these witnesses gave.
Yes, one came to court. She was a 14-year-old girl who lived with her little sister, 4-year-old sister, and her mother in one of Mr. Raveshi's properties.
Mr. Raveshi owns a number of properties.
Yes, he owns these were some flats that he owned at the time. And this day, a mother had to go to the shops, and the 14-year-old girl was left in charge of her 4-year-old sister, evidently. Well, apparently the 14-year-old girl felt the need to go to the toilet this day in the flat, and she went to the toilet. When she came back out of the toilet, much to her horror, she found Mr. Raveshi in bed with her 4-year-old little sister.
And what he got in the flats?
Well, he has a key, doesn't he? He's got his own key
because
obviously he's an owner. And she was absolutely horrified and in tears on the witness stand that day.
And that was just one?
That was just one.
Just one witness?
One witness.
And there were 5 other witnesses?
Girls. Yeah.
And it is believed that the police had many other witnesses that they could have brought forward if they wanted to.
That's right.
So there is no doubt in anybody's minds that these two are paedophiles. But this situation is emblematic of how the authorities deal with Muslim grooming gangs. They have evidence of them, of their crimes, they know who they are, but they just seem to let them carry on with their horrendous activities. Now, and there is another aspect of this situation which is very similar to the one that existed in Rotherham. Mrs. Downes, since the murder of her daughter, has campaigned to try and persuade the authorities to be far more combative of these Muslim grooming gangs that we know are in operation here. And yet she has been largely ignored, not largely, completely ignored. And to give you an example of the sort of treatment she's received, I'll tell you about one of the activities that the group she leads has experienced. A few months ago, this pamphlet, which contains details of why the original trial was a miscarriage of justice and why a retrial is justified, and it also explains the evidence that the two men were indeed paedophiles and the evidence that was brought forward in the court, and encourages the authorities to bring prosecutions. Now, this pamphlet was sent with a nice letter from Mrs. Downes to every councillor in Blackpool, every MP in the North West, every newspaper in the North West, the senior officer at every police station in the Northwest, the top civil servants and ministers at both the Home Office and the Ministry of Justice, and a whole range of other public officials who all carry the responsibility to protect our children from the horrendous activities of these Muslim grooming gangs. And how many replies, what sort of response did you get to these letters?
Absolutely nothing. No replies whatsoever.
Not a single letter. No letter of condolences. No patronising statements about how they'd look into the matter.
Nothing. It was totally
Not
ignored.
a single one.
Totally ignored. Not one.
And again, that is just what happened in Rotherham. Complaints about the activities of these Muslim paedophile grooming gangs are just ignored by the authorities. And we're here today to appeal to those authorities to do your duty and protect our children from these horrendous people. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.